Hello, my name is Tatiana Webb, and this is Off the Record, brought to you by Nana Music Productions. Today, we have an awesome artist in the studio with us today. We have Mr. Damian B in the studio with us. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing well. Damien, he is a pop alternative rock artist with influences of R&B, and I'm gonna tell you, the sheer just amazingness that his music is awesome. I mean, like, can you talk a little bit about how you develop your sound? Because I know that, having a pop alt rock, R&B kind of sound, that's something that's a little different from what people try to like categorize musicians in.
100%. Yeah, throughout the entirety of my musical career, I've always just been different, I'd say. I've never wanted to yeah, I've never essentially wanted to be, like anyone in terms of what I was doing. When I grew up, I was in band. I played the saxophone. I've always listened to different styles of music, in general. Once I decided that this was something that I wanted to take on, as an actual, job and a passion, I decided, we're not gonna go about this, in your traditional way because, I've never been traditional. I take different genres, different styles, and I like to mesh and almost create something entirely new in a sense. If that makes sense.
Is. I mean, they
Sh
always say with music and really with artistry, we're not looking for another blank. We're not looking for another insert artist name. We want original. We want to see you and what you can create. So to take that approach from when you started, I mean, that's exactly what, people want to hear and people want to listen to. So yeah, I love
Right.
that. Now, we probably met before this, but we met back around 2023. I remember we were at the Alabama State Games in Birmingham, Alabama, and I was just working on the production team, making sure that the opening ceremonies, processions, and everything was moving the right way. But during the rehearsals, we were just, putting some chairs up or whatever. And all of a sudden, the band Populous with Troy University was singing or performing Try a Little Tenderness, and you were the lead on that. And I tell you, you had me stopped in my tracks and I had to bring out the computer, the microphone and start recording because I was like, oh my God, this voice. Because you started real low and then all of a sudden this just brilliant voice comes out. And I mean, you captivated me, and I'm just saying that because of that, that's why I've been, trying to stay in contact with you for these years and, but also you're just a sweet person as well, and I just really enjoy
Thank you.
our friendship as well as the collaborative times that we get to do bookings and events and things like that. So, but you had my tender heart in that moment. So yeah, I really appreciated that introduction to you and then being able to work with that. So I just had to share that story because they you know I want to make sure that when people are listening to you, they can hear how you've just grown with your music and also just how your sound has evolved, and it's really pretty. But I digress. So let's talk a little bit about who you are. You touched a bit about it when you were talking about your background and starting with the horns and stuff. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and what sparked that drive to go into the music industry as an artist?
If you want me to be honest,
Yeah.
growing up, I wanted to be many things. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a football player.
See you on the
I
doctor
thought
thing.
I'd take a dabble in being a firefighter. I wanted to do a bunch of stuff, and I tried, a bunch of things. There was at one point in middle school, I was on the football team, but my mom, she wanted me to join the band because she was like, there's like a 1 in 3 chance that this is gonna go somewhere, for you. But I see, I think that you can, because I've had a, I wouldn't say my family's just musically inclined, but There's some people that can carry a tune, yeah, some people who can carry a little tune, a little, little 1 2, little 1 2. But you know, she just she just she felt that she would, that was just a better path for me. And I listened. And throughout middle school I would go to football practice, or I would be in band actually, and then I'd rush out of band, to go change into my pads and everything, and then go outside, to go to football practice. And I did that for a minute, dealt with that until going into high school. My mom, I grew up in a single parent household, so my mom, she worked really hard. All she ever really did was work actually. So she she worked hard for her money, needless to say. So what I was told was basically, she said, and I tell everybody this, but she was like, "Do I paid $4,000 for that instrument. You gonna play that till the keys fall off?" So yeah, that's what I ended up doing. I ended up playing that saxophone till the keys fell off. So
Something mama
I,
balanced out.
went into my high school career, putting sports and everything behind me. Granted, I wasn't a sports superstar anyway, but I ended up putting that behind me. And I told myself, if this was something that I was gonna do, because middle schoolers and high schoolers are terrible. They're terrible. Obviously, I caught the wrath of the wrath of a high schooler, for because who quits the football team to pursue the arts. But that was my reality, and that's what I did. But you know, I enjoyed what I did. I loved being in band. I ended up actually, from that it stemmed into me joining theater. I was a big musical theater nut. Um, shout out to Glass, Gianni. That's the guy. But I joined theater. A cappella. I just did it. I told myself, if I was gonna do this music thing, then I was gonna just become an all around music guy, and I was just gonna push it. And things came from that. And yeah, I don't know. I ended up telling myself, I'm not good at very many things, but the music stuff was just the one thing that actually gave me a sense of purpose. I'd say, some people pick up a pen and decide they want to be a writer. I picked up a pen and decided I wanted to write music. Is I just, I connecting. And well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say, well, yes, of course, connecting, but just being able to be in a space where you can let go of I guess the stresses of your everyday life, the stresses of what's going on at work, what's going on in your household, just by plugging in some headphones or even turning on the TV. The music is everywhere. It's never gonna go anywhere. And just being able to be a part of something that can be, so effective in this world in today's time is what, makes me continue to do it. But yeah, I mean, it's just all I know how to do. It's all I have.
No, I mean, you're talking about your story, and all I can see are flashes of what, my middle school and high school was like. Was I on the football team? Absolutely not. But my brother was, and he did the same switch on, switch off with the band and the football team too. So, hearing you did the same thing, that resonated. But I remember, you were talking about picking up a pen and writing music. Like I was in like eighth grade or whatever. And I remember anytime that we had a free period in PE, I was bringing out my notebook and I was writing songs in the stands. And some of the little boys and girls would be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm just like, I'm writing a song." And that was just that was a moment for me where I was like, yeah, I would much rather sit and write something to express myself and have that freedom to be able to express myself and be able to share that with others than run laps. I mean, it was what it was. But no, I mean, that's how it seems like it starts with everybody. I'm not saying everybody went through marching band or band or anything like that, but the education programs and different outlets when we were younger, that is kind of where a lot of our sparks have come from. And then of course people also say like the church as well. And so yeah.
Yeah, I also, I was in the church choir.
Oh
I
yeah, I'm
definitely
sure
was in the church choir
you better have been with that
for
voice. Oh
a little
my
point in time. But, my situation was a little different because like I said, my parents were split up. So my mom, I would be my family's gigantic. My mom has over 11 siblings. So
God. Oh,
things like that, and they all went to the same church. So at home, I would be you know
you throw a rock and find a family member.
no, it's actually kind of crazy, but it was just a split up. You go from this Southern Baptist background, and then I'd have to go to my dad's side of the family, and they're Pentecostal, so I was getting like two different scenes, I guess, of how things were. So that's another part of inspiration of what I take a lot of yeah, my inspiration from, because I just I just had so many different, I guess, influences, I would say, growing up.
Perspective. Yeah. So
But yeah.
well, fantastic. Awesome. Now, I know you mentioned you didn't see how you would be like, a sports superstar, but you are absolutely a music superstar on that stage, and you're also what I'm hearing, a supermodel. So, can we talk a little bit about the fact that you also are walking and not whatever it is, like walking on runways for like Fashion Week and all these amazing things. Can we talk a little bit about your modeling career in all of this?
Now that is first off, I just want to say I am extremely just blessed to have the opportunity to do these things.
Yeah.
Some of the OGs from day one, they know. Growing up, I was also extremely overweight. I was well over 350 pounds, so I worked really hard to, get the weight off, and just, put the best version of myself forward. And, to do that and, have these things happen, it's amazing, but again, like a lot of people ask, how do you balance, the modeling with the making music, and the simple response is you don't. they they're two different worlds in a sense. It's like on one aspect, it's all about connecting and being one, with your audience, getting your point across, if not vocally, then, artistically. Whereas, in the modeling sense of the world, it's a bit more, closed off. When you're on stage, it's more planted and, centered. You have very straight line, music, no straight line, no planting, you have to maneuver, and you have to, I guess, you have to express yourself outwardly. Whereas, yeah, the modeling is more inwardly, in a sense. I won't say, 100%, but again, I enjoy, what I do. There's just definitely, yeah, definitely two different ballparks, I will say.
It's definitely yeah, it's two different art forms. I mean, in this case with music, you're the one expressing yourself through the music, or you're trying to convey something to your audience in that way. Whereas with like modeling, the way that I'm seeing it is you are the you are the entity that is helping whoever the fashion designer is to portray what their creativity has created, and you're the vessel to help with that in the moment. And of course,
Right.
yes, you can have your persona or how you are when you walk onto the runway, but you are portraying somebody else's art form on a public platform. Whereas with
In a
music,
sense, yeah.
you're expressing yourself and who you are as the artist, and you're the owner of that. So there's that duality of showcasing art form, but the question is who's the owner of it and that dynamic. So yeah, no, I love that. And you know, again, you were talking about how do you balance it? It's like, well, it's a lifestyle. It's the life that you're choosing and you're rocking it from going to New York and going back to where you are now and just all the things.
Yeah, we actually just got yeah, we
Yeah.
just got back. Just just got back, and like I said, that was amazing. I went and I had walked for ATF Fashion House, walked for about 5 different designers. Shout out Bagavelli, Bagavelli, hey, go cop that. You need the go cop that. Go cop that. But yeah, I'm just excited. I'm hopeful. I am a big, manifester. I'm real big on that. I had 3 words for the year. It was manifestation, anticipation, and delusion. And I figure at least one of the 3 are gonna get me somewhere. But
What words you
but
got?
no,
Somewhere they're gonna hit somewhere.
all right. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm just excited. I've worked very hard for this. Those who've been around know, exactly, what I'm talking about. But it hasn't been easy at all, and that's okay. I have like a phrase, it's okay to not be okay, never stagnant. Things are going to happen throughout the course of you trying to accomplish what it is that you're accomplishing, but you can't let that keep you from getting to the end goal. There's been times where I wanted to quit several times. And at one point, I almost did. In a sense, I basically did, but where there's a way, where there is a will, there is a way.
Amen on that.
No, that's no, but in all honesty, things weren't, as easy as they are starting to become now for me. And, all I can do is thank God and, just thank those that are around me, for keeping me steady, because we are real people. And that is, one big stigma that I feel like needs to be talked about, a little more. We are real people. We do have real lives, There are things that go on in our everyday today lives that is separate from, the music. But it's what we do it for.
I couldn't say that any better myself. I resonate with that wholly. Um, so thank you for that. I mean, that that just validates what I do and then also what our listeners do as well, 'cause you've blessed us with your words today on that one. Now, speaking of blessing us on some words, now we need to hear some music. So I heard that you just released a new song, Crush, right?
I definitely did just release a new song, Crush. It is on all streaming platforms. It is more so hyperpop, EDM, if you're into that kind of thing. But it's energy, it's love, it's sadness, it's everything you want it to be, all in one track. You just have to listen to it.
Yeah, so if you haven't listened to Crush, you definitely need to go look up DamianB and go listen to that, like right after the podcast, like immediately afterwards. So, but yeah, no, so what is Crush about? I know you said it's like sadness, it's all the things, it's, all the, I guess the rushes of love, question mark?
In a sense, I mean, yeah, it's about a crush. It's about, I would say it's about putting putting yourself out there in a sense, you may see someone that you like, you may say something, you may get turned down, you may get rejected, things might not go the way that, you want them to go, but you keep going, keep pursuing, you know, um, be your best self, don't let anybody dim, your light. And I know that sounds corny, that sounds real cliche, but no, it's real,
Lifeline.
if put that outfit on, put on, that cologne that you like, that perfume that you like, your best pair of shoes, go outside, do what you want to do. Don't let, don't be limited by, just outside sources that aren't, doing you well. So in a sense, that's just basically the song is about confidence. It's about being confident in yourself, what you have going on and knowing that when you step out of the house, you're putting your best foot forward, you know? And so yeah, crush. Go get that.
Well, definitely go listen to Crush on any of your streaming platforms so that way you can support Damien as well as, see how you feel about the song and leave him a comment in the comment section just to see what, just give feedback on his music. So, okay. So I was going to ask, what advice would you give to our listeners, but you gave us so much already. So I'm not going to even worry about that because, again, your perspective on how you navigate through life, how you're navigating through your careers, and then also just how you're even writing your music and what you're saying through your music. That's a lot of, advice and words for people to chew on and to be able to, turn back and, kind of see how they can do their own thing with it too. So I really appreciate you for what you've said. So, with that, how can people follow you and support you and see where your next, runway moment is or stage performance?
Well, if you would like, you could follow me on Instagram at __ Damian B. That's DAMIANB, no space. TikTok, official Damian B. Um, yeah, that's basically it. YouTube, official Damian B. Everything's just Damian B.
I'll have all of that
But
down in the section below so people can know exactly where to find you. But thank you, Damien, for joining us today and just being able to share your insight on your journey with the music industry, your model career, all the things that is making you you, and how you are creating things for people to be able to be themselves as well. So thank you so much.
thank you for having me. Yeah, I just want to say, the power of authenticity is real. You may hit rock bottom, you may come to a point where, you feel like you've reached your breaking point, but, don't stop. Keep going, keep pursuing, chase that goal, chase that dream because you never know. You literally never know when, your dreams can in fact become a reality. And I am, not quite there yet, but every day, I get closer and, I find solace in that in its own. So yeah, don't give up.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. So
Don't give up.
all's good. But yeah, go follow Damien on streaming platforms, on social media, all of the areas so you can support his music and what he's doing, and hopefully you'll be able to see him on a stage near you. But if you like what you heard today, you can follow the podcast at Nana Music _ off the record. You can follow the company at Nana Music Productions, or you can follow me at webwebb.tatianam. And just remember, this podcast was off the record.